different religions and different languages and different beliefs. And just for me, I was always very open-minded, but it really broke down any barriers that I had between humanity. Not everyone has that opportunity. I was really lucky to be able to travel that much, but that's something that we can do now. We're all sitting at home, and almost all of us, and almost all of us have a phone, and it's like, sweet, we can connect as a Chinese medicine society, as a medical society, as health professionals, as healers, as patients, whatever. But the more that we can connect with people, it's a little ironic that we're connecting more when we're in isolation, but that's also a little bit of a metaphor for 2020 life.
Absolutely. And I mean, that was my whole point with this live. I talked to Kenton from TCM Graduate TV yesterday, and he's in Nova Scotia. And then I'm talking to someone who's in Colombia right now. Her clinic set up there, and then someone from Italy later this week. So it's just like cool that we all, that like we're all
old school and read.
No, exactly. I have plenty of that too. So I was able to save our last video and put it on story. So thank God that's up. But yeah, it was so nice talking to you. And I feel like people got some good takeaways for things they can be doing at home. But do you have any like last words for the listeners? Just, I know meditating is your number one. I would agree with that. I think if you could take 5 minutes to breathe in this time.
It's the same, like, in your acupuncture clinic, I think there's so many people who are resistant to it because of the needles. If it was, like, if we were using feathers, I think 3 times as many people would come in. But because it's needles, they don't want to come in. So with meditation, what's interesting is, and yourself with acupuncture, it works best if someone actually goes into that really, really low, high vibe state, but low logic mind state. But with meditation, I find some people are resistant to it because they become almost defensive, and they say, I can't meditate, my mind's too busy. And again, it's literally like saying, I'm too dirty to take a shower. Like, there's no reason why you can't meditate. If it's better for you, you can call it mindfulness, or you can call it focus, or you can call it recharge time. Like, find your own name for it, because if you feel silly talking to your colleagues or your family saying, oh, I've got to meditate, and you think you're going to get judged, just say, I need to take some recharge time. I feel really warped right now. I need to charge my batteries. Give me 5 minutes or 10 minutes or 20 minutes, whatever it is. But that recharge time, it's actually going to give you more energy throughout the day. So it's not about being lazy. It's not about not doing something. It's about going, cool, I need to actually slow down, come back to my breath, get my hormones back into a state where they're productive instead of in fight or flight. So that's what I mean by meditation. It's not, everyone doesn't need to turn into a yoga guru overnight, but everyone needs to really work out where their inner truth is, where their strength comes from, and that inner stability, because in times where there is change and where there's a little bit of tumultuous energy going around, this is 2020, it's an election year for the US as well. So even without COVID-19, there's already going to be a really powerful year in terms of change and the big waves that are flowing around. But the more that we can work out our own stability, we know our own values, we know our own morals, we know our own ethics, we know our boundaries, and we really try and stick to them as much as we can, the less affected we're going to be, and the more we're going to be able to just stand like mountains and ride the waves that kind of go through. So for me, that comes from meditation and acupuncture, but for everyone, it's going to be a little bit different.
Oh, and we just got it. Oh, hi, you joined. So he said, yeah, meditation often makes people's hearts feel ripped raw open. It can be a very scary feeling that needs us to hold space for them.
Absolutely, yeah, totally. There's a lot of patients who are resistant to it, and in an acupuncture treatment, and same with yoga. As a yoga teacher, meditation teacher, it's almost like, you know how we say the heart is really vulnerable, and that's why we often use pericardium points, and it's exactly the same, because for a lot of people, the trauma that's held in the heart, whether it's from this life or another life or whatever, it can be very, very difficult to deal with. But again, there's so many resources out there. You can do a mindfulness technique which is more focused on just listening to the music or focusing on your breath. It doesn't always have to take you to a really raw and vulnerable place. I meditate every noon when it switches from yang time to yin time, so I do it right there in the heart time at noon every single day, and I'll do it for 5 minutes. But if I've got a full day, or if I've got a lot going on, I won't necessarily do like this huge inner child meditation. It might just be 5 minutes going squeak. I just need to focus, come back down to the earth, feel myself being grounded, and then get back into the day.
Well, I also love the idea of not being in a position where you have to label it as meditation, because I think that's what gets people hung up, just like what we were talking about earlier with people getting hung up with their diseases. Like they get diagnosed with something and then they
and they have a
become
name that they can live with forever. Yeah, totally. It's
yeah.
interesting. So the podcast I'm listening to at the moment, and I've read A New Earth many times, but I haven't listened to this podcast yet, and it's Oprah Winfrey with Eckhart Tolle, and it's actually called A New Earth, and it's a podcast where they go through the chapters of the book, but they also interview people about their situation, so Eckhart can then apply the techniques of the book. So for me, it's not just reading a spiritual book or a Chinese medicine textbook, but it's also then integrating it. You don't just want to go and have an acupuncture treatment and then go straight outside and drink some Coca-Cola and have a cigarette. Like, you've got to integrate what you learn. You practice yoga on the mat, then you have to be kind off the mat. So in this podcast, they talk about the fact that you can walk through a park, and it was funny because I was walking through a dog park yesterday when I was listening to it, and it's so beautiful to look at trees and flowers in the sky, but not attach them to a name, and actually just look at them from a place of space rather than a place of logic. That's a really fun exercise as well. So if anyone hasn't listened to a podcast in a while, that's definitely one I recommend. It's really, really cool.
Okay, nice. Do you know what it's called?
Yeah, I believe it's just called A New Earth.
Okay.
I think it's just called A New Earth. It's on Oprah's list of podcasts, but yeah, it's really, really good. Eckhart Tolle, who I've listened to a lot of his work, because he's so detached from the logic mind and he meditates so much, he's got a very monotonous tone of voice. It's peaceful, but it gets a bit sleepy. So Oprah brings her zest and her performance to it, so it's really fun to listen to. Yeah.
I love seeing the balance with her and different people too.
Totally,
so.
she's awesome. Okay, so I've given my recommendation. Do you have any recommendations from me or anyone from my account that's following in terms of podcasts or books or something that they can do at the moment?
So my favorite book of all time that was the most transformative for me is The Untethered Soul.
That's so funny because I haven't read it, but I just looked it up the other day because everyone's talking about it. And one of my spiritual mentors yesterday said she did a meditation and it's all about releasing tethers. So that's it. I've got to read it.
You've got to read it because it's very timely too, because it's also something you have to integrate. And in the situation we're currently in, where there is so much change, and we really need to be evolving, it's a very special book. And it's also one that you will reread at different parts in your life and get different things from it. So
cool. Yeah, I love those books.
All right. Well, I want to do this again because this was so fun. So in a few weeks, let's do another one and
we should line it up.
See where we're at and how we're enjoying this growth. Yes. So thanks so much for coming on. I appreciate it.
All right.
We'll talk soon.
Stay safe. Be well. Bye.
All right. Bye.